All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for podcast number 49. We're going to give an update on the Battle Lines book written by this lovely gentleman right here.
Yeah.
Yes, the book is called Battle Lines, and we're going to be giving you guys a little bit more info. I'll be interviewing him, of course. But before we do that, we got to give our VIP shout out to Daiki. Is an absolute legend on the Discord.
Yes,
Love you
enjoy
so much.
seeing
Thank
all
you so much for your
posts.
support. And yes, your memeage and just discussions. It's really enjoyable.
On point.
Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah.
And we're happy to have you. So, Jacob, Battle Lines.
Yes.
And
first,
things
there
first.
is another podcast on this book. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. This is going to be other types of questions, but that other one has other kinds of questions. So
For sure.
yeah.
Yes. So, Jacob, why pick the name Battle Lines?
So originally, I had the name Fallen Angel because the main characters are part of a super secret military group called the Angels, the Air, Navy, and Ground Elites. Is it a reference to Evangelion, or was it, or is it?
Maybe.
Yeah. There is a point where people say it's the Angels, and they are in a command center.
Oh no, Jacob, we have enough copyright problems as it is.
But the problem is that Fallen Angel, one, it doesn't connotate sci-fi. Two, I looked up Fallen Angel for books.
And there's hundreds of them, probably.
There's hundreds of them.
Yes.
And they all look like bad young adult, like...
Crap.
Yes. Yeah.
So Battle Lines, why that one?
So Battle Lines, basically, it quickly communicates the sort of setting and themes and the tone of the story because it is a military book. So Battle Lines, like, very, very clearly sort of shows that aspect. But then also the idea that it's the question of, wait, battle lines. So it's not necessarily just about the one side and, like, you know, whatever. There's complications at hand.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's cool. Yeah, you should inspire questions based on your title.
Yeah.
A lot of people are clamoring for this book, Jacob. It's kind of cool to note that there's a lot of people that are really excited.
Thank you so much.
Like, you guys are actually, like, making this so much better for Jacob because he was, like, worried at points, like, are people really going to be interested in this? Because they don't know me as a writer. They know me as, like, an anime reactor discussion person. So,
and
like,
here's the other
will they
thing,
be interested
too.
in this?
Here's the other thing, too. Before we started the channel, I was thinking I was going to have to sell this book door to door.
Right.
Like, think about it.
Don't
You
get
guys
ahead
are
of the
amazing.
interview here, Jacob. Next question is, people that are interested in this, when can they expect new info regarding getting the book, pre-order, literally, like, anything?
That is the big question.
When's the next bit of info coming?
So, I can't give you a specific day.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of irons in the fire, and it's based on basically how quickly I can get things back from people and, you know, manage all that stuff.
Sure, a lot of things happening.
Yes, right. But I have a special announcement video that I will be posting for when it is available for pre-order. And
on this channel?
On this channel.
Excellent.
And it will be hard to miss that one.
Oh, fun.
I'm hoping to have that be out there in, like, the next few weeks, but it does depend on all those other things.
Okay, cool. So there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
There will be a video coming on this channel that we won't miss.
No, you won't.
Okay, cool. I'm excited about that. And that'll give us more info and probably more specific details about pre-order.
Exactly.
And the like.
Yeah.
Excellent. Let's get into the whole writing process side of things.
Right.
Like, obviously, being a writer is something that you do day in, day out, over and over. There's a grind to it. But are there any particular struggles that you went through in this process that you're willing to share?
Yeah. It's more of like, how do I pick them? So one of the biggest ones that comes to mind is that I had this problem with never sticking to a story.
Okay.
This was back when I thought that the first draft was going to be the final draft and all that stuff. So I would go through every chapter and, like, rework it, you know, and stuff until I thought I had it perfect and all that stuff. And this is when I was still thinking it was going to be a part of some, you know, whatever book I was writing was going to be a part of some, like, multi-volume series that was going to be so long, and this epic that spans a huge world and all that stuff.
We all want to write those. But,
But
it's not
we
realistic.
want to write those, but it's like,
one.
come on, for your first book, do something simpler. That gives you a way to basically say, yes, the end is in sight. I'm getting close. And then I would end up burning out because, you know, the end was impossibly far off.
Gotcha.
Even though I don't like that word. So I would end up thinking up something else, and I'd be like, ooh, I want to try out that because that's a new shiny idea. And then I would lose all interest in the previous story, and I would not work on it anymore. And I wouldn't get it past like chapter 5 or 6 on any of my stories, and it was a problem. So
I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah. So I ended up saying, hey, I just have to treat this book like my waifu, and I must be loyal to my waifu. I must not cheat on my waifu. I must be faithful and dedicated.
Good man.
Yeah. So I literally
waifu chivalry still exists.
Yep, the folder in my computer for battle lines literally says Raifu, like WRI capital F.
You're writing waifu.
Yeah, my Raifu.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So now those are struggles, but are there any moments of victory or triumph in the writing process that you recall, like especially as important?
There are, again, a lot because, over a long period of time.
Right, the ones you're willing to share.
Yeah, like, okay, so any moment that I would be listening to a song on repeat, like Lost My Pieces or something like that, or Crone or whatever, and then I would come up with something for like a chapter or a scene or something that I had no plan for, and it would like, the neurons were all firing and everything was just working, and then I'd look at it and I'd be like, yes, this is great. And even if it like needed to be touched up and everything, just the idea of like the idea of what I had written was just like, that's cool.
That's awesome. Are there any specific ones though that you can actually like tell us details on though?
There's one that has to do with the finale.
Okay.
One of the final battles, because there are battles in this book called Battle Lines. I came up with a bit of an out there idea for how it was gonna go.
Okay.
And I ended up doing it, and it worked really well.
Okay.
So, and it's one of those things.
So it was a battle that you were struggling in how to communicate to the reader how it would be an epic battle, or just and
not just an epic battle, but an emotionally grounded battle.
Yes.
Because that's one of the things I want to have for all of, like, because, the characters are the story, right?
Yeah.
So the battles are the chances for the characters to be in the most extreme conflict possible with each other. So those should be some of the best moments, right? And I came up with this great way to do it, and I haven't seen something like this in other stories. If once it comes out and you guys read this, if you know another story that does something like this, you'll know what I'm talking about when you read it. Let me know, because I'm excited. Very much interested in reading that, because
I've intentionally left myself blind, guys, for the story, so it's kind of cool. Like, I'm
maybe editing a lot harder.
Well, I did this because I didn't want to influence you to change your type of story. But anyways, the next and final question I have is, it kind of is an open-ended thing. I want to hear like you kind of go on and on about this. So like, as you approach the crest of the mountain and look back at the journey, like you've got all this time stretched out behind you and so little ahead, specifically for this book. Can you think of anything that you can share to help other writers who are still in the grind of the out,
that is an excellent choice of words, because it is a grind.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Oh,
anything like worth doing in life is basically going to be one of those where you kind of already know what you have to do, and it's just doing it, again, over and again, and again, and again. The whole Bruce Lee thing of I don't fear the man who's, practiced 10,000 kicks one time each, but the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. Right. That's basically a book. You wrote a little bit of a bunch of different stories.
You wrote 50 words 10,000 times.
Right. But if you can write, 500,000 words for a series, then it's like, holy crap. That's
impressive. Yeah. So,
so
what are some of those things? What are some of those nuggets?
Okay. This is the one that I always want to say whenever people ask me this, and I've said it before. I'll say it again. Some of these I'll probably end up repeating, but that's because they're important. And this is the biggest one for me. Let yourself write badly.
Oh yeah.
Again, like I mentioned before, I was thinking the first draft was going to be the final draft, so I wanted everything to be perfect and all that stuff.
Right.
And even the 5 or 6 chapters that I would write, the time it would take me to write those 5 or 6 chapters was stupidly long. Right. Like it was ridiculous. And most of the people I know that are working on their books, they will still be in that mode, right? They won't end up once you get your first draft done, it is like a surreal thing, and also kind of like a ew, because you look at like how bad it is, right? Because it's the first draft.
Right.
but it is also so amazing because you're like, I've never gotten this far before. Like, I actually, like, you know, like if you print out the pages and everything, which can be good to do, even if it's a little pricey, you're like, this is paper. Like, this is paper with words. And it's like, you know, I could actually read through this and it would take a while and all that stuff, right? And even if it's not good, it's here, right? I got this far, right? So let yourself write badly. There is no such thing as the perfect story. Don't tell yourself that this is going to be the masterpiece that will change everyone's hearts and, you know, bring about world peace and everything. Because then you'll be in analysis paralysis because nothing that you could possibly do will measure up to that impossible standard.
Right.
Just write a real good book. Like, just a good book where you'd be like, yeah, I'd want to read that book. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then all the big writers, they sucked too. like the reason they're good is because
kept writing.
They've written, you know, millions of words, right?
Right.
But there was a time when they were right where you're at, and they sucked. And they were looking at the writing, and they're like, well, there's no way anyone will ever publish this. You know, like, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? But they kept at it, and that's why they are at where they are today.
Awesome.
So, yeah, don't worry about it. There's no trick or secret sauce. That can either be one of the biggest blessings and encouragements or one of the most terrifying things ever. Because it is... Like, yeah, there's all kinds of variables and stuff because, you know, life and chance and all that stuff. But if you think about it, you're kind of on an even playing field as far as writing the book goes.
Right.
Getting the book to sell, that's a whole nother story,
yes,
right?
That's true.
But for getting the book done, it doesn't matter how marketable your book would be if you don't finish it.
Yep.
Like I myself have been one of those people that was like, oh my God, that book's terrible. How did it get published, right? No, but they actually wrote it and people bought it. Mm-hmm. So there you go. There was a market for it. There were people that enjoyed that story, even if I myself was like, oh, that's terrible. You know, so don't worry about it.
And that's okay also. Yeah. Probably just the fact that people won't like it. Like,
Yeah. There will be people that won't like your story. That's fine. Does everyone like chocolate? No, some people are allergic to milk, sadly, and if they had chocolate, they would, like, you know, almost die. But if that makes sense. But there will be people that will be like, you know, stuffing it in their faces and being I can't get enough. Can I get some more? Please give me some more because this is one of the best things I ever had. Or at least, you know, this moved me or whatever, right?
Or they just liked it.
Or they just
Novel
liked
concept.
it. Yeah. They don't have to praise it from the mountaintop saying this is, you know, the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. They can just say, that was a fun book. Thanks for taking me on a journey.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And this is more of a specific thing. But if you can, get an editor before you start your book.
Whoa.
And have them and basically write up an outline. Figure out the outline of the book. You know, what you want it to be, the characters, you know, and all that stuff. So yeah, you have to do some planning and all that.
Whoa.
But come up with that and then take that to the editor because the 80-20 rule, the most of writing is all the grind, right? But there is that aspect that's about the design and the concept and all that stuff, right?
Right.
So if you can, like, the editors will basically, if you get a good one, you know, find a good one, and that can be hard to do and all that stuff because, you know, anyone can say they're an editor. But they can help you keep it simple. Show if you have any points in your story that are, like, big problems you have to change. Like, when I started the first draft, I had non-linear storytelling and 6 different main characters, right? I alternated perspective between each one every chapter while switching between the time periods.
Whoa.
So
that's hard to follow.
That's hard to follow.
Yeah.
Right? So they were like, yeah, you should probably change that. And I already had the first draft written. So I had to rewrite the entire book, basically. That's...
Dang.
That's a lot of
so
work.
So an editor that's right there along with you while you give them an outline.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And getting an outline from them gives you kind of the knowledge of what are some pitfalls to avoid
Yep.
So it shortens the length of the process overall.
Because especially when you're starting out, one of the things that you'll want to do is you'll want to overcomplicate things. That's why most writers, when they decide they want to be a writer, it ends up being this Tolkien world thing that they're wanting to create, right?
Right.
Get something manageable. The editors will help you with that. And, again, this is, if you can, pay that bit of money for it, but, or know somebody that can help you out. But that can, and it doesn't have to be necessarily an editor. If you have someone that's really like knowledgeable about stories and stuff,
yeah,
they could also help too. If you can't get access to an editor, because I'm not upset about the fact that I had to rewrite the whole first draft. That first draft was so important for helping me grow as a writer because you
did the work,
right?
I did the work.
Hours. This is like a video game where you have to just keep crafting the same thing over and over and over again, right, to get that rank skill up high. But that would have been a lot cooler if I had started that with that like simple thing switch. Because even if the content of the story was still more or less the same, a lot of times I'd still have to rewrite the chapter because it's just a different character's perspective. It's little things like that. Cool.
Any final things you give out to people?
Fight dirty.
Ooh.
Do whatever helps you
That's
write.
Good.
Like whatever helps you write, because this is a grind. This is a battle.
Make it enjoyable. Make it
enjoyable. Like do whatever you got to do within reason, but go for it. And turn this into a contest where you get like this blood frenzy in your eye where you're like, yes, bite it, just get it done. You won't feel like that all the time.
No.
But if you can get some things that will help reinforce that emotional aspect of itself, right? Because we're all subject to our emotions, and what usually cripples writers is their emotions, because they'll have that high, but then they'll go into the lows where their baby, they realize it's a pile of garbage. It's a pile of hot garbage. And then, they just want to give up on it all. I'm done, right? If you can come up with something concrete that will help bring you out of that and put you back into that mode, that can be people or that can be things, or even just like physical, like body language. Like do a Super Saiyan charge up pose, like whatever works, like that can actually be very helpful. Because
you've got to get this done. You've got to do the work anyway. It's not going to change,
and you want to do it quickly because here's the thing. One of the couple of things that can motivate me a lot to write is I want to actually get the book done, because I don't want to be one more person, right, that's looking back, on their life in their 30s or 40s and is like, oh man, if only I'd written that book. And now writing's like this scary thing for them because they keep putting it off, but they wrap up their identity in it and all that stuff.
Sure.
You don't want that to happen, right? So focus on what you do want. You also don't want to, because now like shoot for the stars here. You don't want to be the person that writes one book and then goes to write another one and it's like the sequel or something, and then they spend like 7 years writing it and people are like, are we ever gonna get it?
Sure.
So get it so you can write fast now.
Cool.
You got this.
Thank you so much, Jacob. That was fantastic.
Like, I hope that's helpful.
I took a lot of mental notes myself. Like that, there's some things in there that I'm like, I'm gonna take that.
Yeah, you guys can do this.
I'm inspired to write more now. Yeah. All right, guys. So we're gonna move into the Q&A section of the video. And get some of our viewer comments answered here.
If you want to ask questions for the next podcast, ask them in the comments of this one. Also, I forgot. Okay, so. One of the people that I'm working with for one of the irons in the fire, they said that they were going to get some art back to me. As of the recording of this podcast, I don't have it yet, but they said they'll get it to me tonight, which will be whenever it was in the past. But I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, cool. Gotcha. First question's from Antonio Roja Cortez. What abandoned plot point disappointed you the most?
CC's name in Code Geass. That was one of those little things, but I loved the scene where they, where
in the cave.
In the cave. I loved the scene in the cave, so I was like,
After
why didn't we ever get
by the shrapnel.
another one of those? Like,
I don't know. I tend to forget abandoned plot points because they were abandoned.
Yeah.
By their nature, it's hard to remember them.
Well, a lot of times they're abandoned for a reason.
A lot of times they're abandoned for a reason. I do think, though, that I have shifted my perspective to noticing abandoned plot points and like critiquing stories based on them versus just focusing on what makes a show great. So I can't actually think of any off the top of my head. All right, Tanya the Future Writer asks, how would you write on sensitive topics such as abuse and rape in a respective manner? Do your research.
Yeah.
Do your research. I think the main thing that should be done is that if you have a specific purpose in writing on that, if this is a story versus some kind of educational thing, I'm thinking you're thinking of a story. In a story, you really need to focus on putting, since you're talking about it in a sensitive manner or in a respective manner, be respectful of the individuals that would be reading this that have gone through those things. So you need to not only put yourself in that aspect, you need to talk to people who have been in those types of situations and have them read your content. Otherwise, I wouldn't actually even do this. It's tough to do it, especially if you're doing this in a work of fiction, because
but when in doubt, double down on the characters, because that's what these things, like, I mean, that's why you're having them in there, right? Because of the effects that they have on people, and you want to explore that, right? And also, I would say that usually when sensitive topics are done poorly, it's either because there was a lack of reaction from the characters, which basically feels like you're downplaying it and minimalizing it, or it's done too over the top, and then it ends up feeling like it can end up feeling like you're making fun of it in a really bad way. So just do the characters justice. Discovery-based storytelling comes in handy a lot here. If you're wanting it to be something that's like as an outline thing, you might want to rethink that.
Good idea.
But yeah.
Lex the Graceful Rival asks, welcome to a new segment on the podcast called Fix That Anime, a segment involving Jacob and Caleb trying to fix an anime widely considered bad or parts of an anime that are considered bad. Today, Jacob and Caleb will be fixing Bleach, Caleb's favorite anime, the shonen that got Caleb and Jacob to love the genre. Wow.
So
this comment is hilarious.
Like, quick things, what would you most want to fix about Bleach?
The first thing I would fix about Bleach was I would remove most, if not all, of the hollow conflict within Ichigo. I would remove the entire storyline of Ichigo's power progression. Once he hits Bankai, he's peaked. And then it's just a thing of understanding why that progression came about outside of any kind of evolution thing.
It.
Drive it back then immediately towards the characters who are around Ichigo reacting to the Soul Society invasion arc. And then have it be about the Soul Society members trying to kind of adapt to the whole, what happened, basically, but also Ichigo's presence within the story. I think that was the original goal. But Tite Kubo
there were
basically
some
decided to
extrapolate
so much other story. Like, we didn't need all the Vizards. We didn't need all the... who are the mask people? I don't even remember them. Like,
those are the Vizards. The Arankars.
The Arankar and the Vizards. Like, forget all of that.
Yeah.
Make it a personal story about Aizen and the fallen Soul Society heroes.
Okay, take Infinity War, right? As an example.
Yep.
We had one bad guy and his main cronies. There weren't like, if
there wasn't an army.
There wasn't an army, and if it was just a mindless mob that is just like zombie apocalypse type stuff. We just have to survive type thing, right?
Yep.
They could have totally done that. We might have spoiled something already, but they could have done that with the antagonistic characters in the story. And they could have focused on that, and it would have been great. the last episode of filler in like one of the way later arcs that you know what I'm talking about.
I just love that you talk about that when we're trying to fix Bleach.
No. I'm saying that's an example of one of the things where Bleach actually did kind of do something well, but the problem is it didn't have the infrastructure carried on in through the rest of it. All the times when Bleach did actually focus on its characters and what they cared about and all that stuff. Yep. All the stuff with Rukia and her backstory bit that they gave, they never really like did more with that. I mean, they did a little bit in the Ronkar arc and all that stuff. Yeah. But that was an example of something that was really good. Yep. If they had done that treatment with the rest of the characters, with captains and things like that, and basically kept doing that, if what you're saying, they stopped Ichigo's progression at Bankai, that would have been a great way to allow time for that, and also to basically get at the idea that it's not just about having the power, it's about being the person that can defeat the enemy, right?
Right.
They could totally have done that, and it would have been real good.
Yeah, there was a lot of delaying action you could tell that was put on the story involving the antagonists. Yeah. And the protagonist. And I would have preferred a much more personal story of how Soul Society deals with what happened on a personal note. And they did this a little bit with a specific female character who was kind of the focal point of the WTF, you know. Right. But then she's just shunted out of the story, just completely. If they had done that, but with everyone, and had it been a thing where there were actual losses, that's the other thing Bleach was scared of doing, was actually killing characters. And it's like, wow.
And you don't have to kill characters in order to have there be loss.
No, but actually show them reacting.
Exactly, yeah. Because the way they set up the antagonist, it was perfect for something like that. It would have been amazing. Yep. Like that idea, more stories need to take note from, especially when they've got big cast of characters, because that's ways to have there be personal motivations and reason to be fighting in this conflict other than duty for everyone.
Yep, and we're not saying Bleach did this well. They did not execute well on this premise. The premise was fine.
It was set up to be amazing, right?
But
and here's the other thing I'll say, that filler episode towards the end. The reason I mentioned that is because yes, I will ship Ichiruki to my dying grave. But no, it's not just because of that. There was something that they did as far as consequences go for the resolution of the main conflict with the main antagonist, centering around Ichigo. It was fantastic. That's one of the best examples in my mind of the idea of coming full circle.
The hero's journey.
Yeah, the hero's journey. And that episode cemented it in an amazing way. The fact that it continued after that was very unfortunate. If it had ended right there, that would have been, in my mind, one of the best endings possible.
For a less than show.
Right. So, yeah, that's how I would fix Bleach.
Okay, we gave a lot of answer for that one, but moving on to the next question from Flower Dance. What is your favorite anime opening and ending? We've answered this question quite a lot.
Mine changes a lot, though.
Yeah, the thing is that I don't keep a favorite one of these. I don't keep a kind of a thought in the back of my head as to like, oh, this is my favorite anime opening of all time, or my favorite anime ending. So it's more of like the favorite ones I'm watching right now. Yeah. I have been a really big fan of the Stand Proud opening for the first one of part 3 of JoJo's. I really liked it. I'm really liking, though, the ending of Your Lie in April.
Yep, I was going to mention that one if you didn't. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, like that. Because, there's so many out there that there's ones that are kind of more legendary, like the Cowboy Bebop opening. Right. And maybe, you're a big fan of the Black Lagoon ending. Yep. But yeah, good question, though. What about you? Any ones you just want to call out?
The Your Lie in April ending one, really, and then Bakuno's opening. So here's the thing.
Bakuno's opening is legendary.
Bakuno's opening is legendary.
That's
true.
When
I listen to that song, like I love to listen to it like on the way to the gym or back from the gym, and the way they do the music, it's like there's this, like, I can just imagine like this stage with lights and everything and like explosions and like instruments being played and stuff, like they're basically just proclaiming the show is here.
Yes,
like it has begun.
It's also a great insight into the massive cast of characters. Yes, that like it just does it in 90 seconds so perfectly. Yep. I want to give also a shout out for the Attack on Titan season 3 ending. It's very good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's very good, and this is coming from a guy that like. Half the time I'm looking at like openings and endings, I'm like, I recognize some characters here and I recognize like thematic things here, but I don't know like half of what this means. So good stuff. It says, if you get the chance to rewrite specific elements of an arc of any show you were currently watching, which would you choose and what would you change? This isn't necessarily because you dislike it. You could love it, but even see even more potentially. I don't know. What's a one that something we're currently watching? I would say the only thing I'm really kind of looking at right now is like a change the way. What's yours?
Haikyuu.
Okay, how so?
Basically, I want more slice of life type stuff.
Oh, sure.
I want
sure.
I mean, you've heard me talk about this, but they could do pretty much anything with those characters. So what I would want to do is I would want to have like in Haikyuu, that's one of the shows where I would actually love to have like well-written filler.
Yeah,
because
me too.
in my mind it wouldn't be filler because it wouldn't be plot.
The characters are all
that's
fantastic.
Fine. The characters were all watching Haikyuu.
Yep. Oh. I'm just stealing your idea because that's a perfect one. Next question's from Raina Dupre. What do you guys think of non-linear storytelling? Love it. Big fans of it. It's hard to execute on. It says, in what circumstances is non-linear storytelling effective, especially in books? And do you have any advice on using this structure so that it's impactful and not just there for the sake of making a story seem more complex? Go for it.
So, like I mentioned about the book,
it's a perfect
non-linear
question.
Storytelling can be awesome. And Bacano is another example of non-linear storytelling where it worked really well. Here's the thing, though. Even with something like Bacano that did it amazingly, it did make it more complicated. Was it worth it? Absolutely.
Yes.
But has Bacano gotten a sequel? No.
If you want to have sequels,
if
you want to have sequels, don't do non-linear storytelling.
If you want your story to sell, make it simpler. That does not mean dumber, but simpler. Simplicity is incredibly powerful. Non-linear storytelling kind of just takes that table, flips it over, and smashes
it. The main
it.
reason why is that you forget things. Your memory is kind of jumbled when it comes to non-linear storytelling.
You better have a real good outline if you're doing non-linear storytelling because you'll need it.
In terms of books that have done non-linear storytelling, not many. Not many. I'll tell you that it's really hard to find a book that I would, end up reading, because generally I would only end up reading the books that are probably successful enough to be put into my viewpoint. So most of those end up being linear based storytelling.
And here's the thing with books, especially, it's harder because in TV shows and things, there's visual elements. You can get a scene communicated in an instant. With books, you can't. You need paragraphs, and even then, if you go from one scene to another, that's jarring, right? You do, and especially with books, you do not want people to ever be like putting down the book, because then they might not pick it back up.
Right? Game of Thrones, I think book 4 was a big example of non-linear storytelling not necessarily paying off as well. There was some interesting things where they basically shifted focus.
Book 4 and 5 are basically split.
They basically did an advancement of one story, and then they went back to the next book and just advanced the story on the other continent.
Right.
And it was fine for the most part, but it's like maybe they shouldn't have done that. Next question's from Little Duck, and there's a lot of questions here. It's question time. All right, this is a big one. Where do you guys stand on the debate over realism versus style? It depends on how well executed the style part is. I tend towards more realism, but the thing is, I'm a science fantasy nut, so like,
and that's all about style.
No, it's not necessarily.
Well, it can be.
The thing is, I think about science fantasy and their story kind of things is that they want to make you feel like the characters are in this world and they are a part of it. There are moments in stories where the characters feel like they don't care about this world. They're just kind of in there doing their thing, and the world is just kind of its own thing. So when I think of realism versus style, I feel like it's kind of the thing of, does this character's story and what they're doing fit into this world? Because most of the stories I read or watch or whatever have a fictional world. So
gotcha.
I don't really fall one way or the other.
Yeah, I would say it mostly depends on what kind of story you're telling. If you're going for a grimdark, then your style that you're relying on is something very different. You're trying to get a realism of sorts for that own world that you're going for, right?
Yeah.
So style like JoJo's does not belong in many shows or many stories,
Yeah.
So.
Are there certain aspects in storytelling you believe are just better when done one way or the other? Yes.
Simpler is generally better.
Yes. This is the thing I feel like a lot of people like when you're like just what you said earlier, when you first start out writing, you want that massive complex world with Tolkien level depth and, you know, all this stuff going on around it. And I feel like a lot of people miss actually why their story would even needed to be written. This is something that I feel like is very important. If you want to communicate themes in your story, simplify the delivery of the story. When it comes to those specific themes. If you put the themes in massively complex like puzzles and things, people will be like, well, I think I caught something around the themes here, but it could have meant like 50 different things. Right. This is the thing. It's like art. It's like when you paint a picture, you are under the impression immediately that you're going to have it interpreted 1,000 different ways. But the thing is with books, with stories, you're generally trying to hone that down to about 10 different ways. And that's really hard to do when your story has tons of just extraneous things that don't actually fit within the theme. So if something in this story doesn't correlate directly with your story's themes, really consider why is it in there in the first place. It might still be important, but you need to have a very good explanation to give to yourself as to why it's in the story. So shorter, simpler, generally better, and
looking at actual like mini stories, like Pixar shorts or like things like that. That can be one of the best ways to basically get the idea of how powerful a simple story can be.
True. For example, realistic dialogue is an incredible feat that is coveted by most writers, but then you have writers like Shakespeare or characters like V from V for Vendetta with poetic stylized dialogue that can be spine-chillingly beautiful but ultimately unrealistic. I was talking about this actually in Your Lie in April recently. Some of the characters in Your Lie in April use a vocabulary that doesn't fit with them being 13 or 14 years old. So I was saying that it pulled me out of the story just a little bit, but the thing is that you can have a show like Firefly, where the characters are so witty and so clever that
it's like
enjoy it enough that it kind of suspends your disbelief about how realistic the dialogue is. But then you have A Place Further in the Universe that has dialogue that's so fast and almost hard to keep up with that you're like, is this really realistic? But because its style seems to be so manic at times and emotional, it makes you feel like this story is manic and emotional, and that's kind of the setting that they were going for. Which
is also kind of the thing that Your Lie in April tries to do, right? It wants it to be this emotionally charged
dramatic
story. Right, dramatic story.
Yes.
So it has the characters talk in colorful language.
Very colorful language, So it just depends on the story, really.
It can. It can work out.
Eric Walton asks, have you guys attended college, and if so, what majors and did you finish? So
I got an associate's.
Yeah, we both did community college. We did it through a program called Running Start. So which basically meant it was tuition free. It was pretty awesome.
Pretty cool.
We did 2 years. I actually think that like you did technically more than I did.
Because I did 3 years technically because I was wanting to do some other stuff and I had more stuff to do.
I transitioned out of higher education as fast as possible. If you're close friends with me, you know that I am not the biggest fan of America's higher education system, but that's not something that's relevant for the topic of this channel, so it doesn't get brought up as much. My main thing is I don't believe in debt. Like don't go into debt, people. Like literally, if you have an education that you're really going for and you really want to, like spend tons of time thinking about whether or not it's that important to you before you go into debt.
Maybe
it's totally fine if you do it.
Maybe for a super technical, thing and all that, like where you really need the degree, but even then, try and cut it down as much as possible.
But you better not go in with any doubts. I have talked to so many people who got into that. So no majors, did attend college, sort of finished. Great question. Moi DZ asks, so what makes a character shine more in a story? Character development or characterization? The ever-entering question of character development versus character depth. I think that personally, one of the things that makes a character shine more is development. Now, this is the thing. It's harder to do development than actual character depth because the thing is writers will trick you. And this is a known thing. Like, we're not prolific writers necessarily, but we know this trick works, is we'll give the characters depth. and that'll make the characters feel more relatable and interesting. But that's not actual character development.
Character development actually happens very rarely. What usually happens is it's layers being peeled back on the onion of showing the depth of the character.
Exactly.
That can be fantastic.
Totally.
Because one of the things you need to realize is, in order for the audience to care about the character development, they need to care about the character.
Yep.
That happens through characterization and character depth.
Yes.
Right? So Zuko, for instance, that's one of the best examples about character development.
Just that probably everyone knows about.
Yeah, that probably everyone knows about, right?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't really make us care about him at first because it's like, oh, angsty,
But they gave us some good characterization,
but
specific
very
moments.
quickly they gave us good characterization and everything, good depth and everything. That was not development necessarily, even though he actually was already showing bits of development, but it was showing that bit of depth so that we cared and we were rooting for that development.
Yes. I would say in Game of Thrones, you can find a lot of character development as well. One of the things that Game of Thrones does, I would say, a little bit in a clever way by shifting character focus, is you'll get depth by just spending time with the character.
Sure.
What they do is they basically say, oh, you know immediately when it's Arya speaking, when it's Cersei speaking. You don't really have those character backstory moments, or too many layers getting peeled back. You know that they talk this way, they move this way, they react this way, and that gives you an idea of, I can kind of get a general outline of the character, but the characters develop, they change because there's a lot of time given to the characters. So I think that as long as you're willing to give time to a specific character, the character might develop whether you even meant for them to or not. And that's the thing, is sometimes the reader can help you realize the development of something. I found this to be the case definitely in tabletop RPGs. So
Sure. Yeah.
Good kind of thing there.
Great examples. But if you do have like a set development arc that they're going to go on, well, that can be real good stuff.
Yeah. Robin Taylor asks, is there any Western novels that you would love to see as an anime adaptation?
Red Rising.
Yeah.
Trilogy, but then also the sequel.
Yeah, it would make a good pseudo mecha political Code Geass type of thing.
It'd be sweet.
It would be basically the what would be the thing that you would merge with Code Geass to make Red Rising, essentially? Because there's that bit about
high school.
Well, no, there is the high school element there. It would make the perfect kind of high school,
but
young adult kind of mecha thing. But I think it's actually more along the lines of kind of a thing of someone being like
an Attack on Titan, maybe.
Yeah, kind of like a rebirth kind of thing for the main character.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what would be there, but that's a great one. That's a great one. Next question's from Sen Ogino. It says, pick your favorite female Hunter x Hunter character from this list. Melody, Machi, Shizuku, Pakunoda, Bisky, and Komugi. Oh. Well, the thing is, I'm loving Komugi right now. I'm loving Komugi.
All the stuff with Komugi is amazing.
But the thing is that I'm interested.
Bisky,
I'm going to say Bisky because the thing about Bisky is we spent the most time with her. We've seen the most range of characterization from her. She has been kind of this enigma in the Hunter x Hunter universe that just kind of exists out there.
Like appears and then just leaves.
Leaves. Komugi is something special. I feel like Komugi could oust Bisky. I just need more time with her.
I'd probably say the same thing. I feel like having Bisky and Komugi in there though is kind of unfair because of
other characters.
To the other characters because of how much time we've gotten with them.
Yeah, Melody did a really good job for her character.
Melody, I would say would be my favorite from the other ones just because of how unexpected she was and how much she contributed in such a short amount of time.
Yeah. For fun, pick your poison. Who would you rather date, Palm or Kikyo? This kill was Mom. Well, so here's the thing. Palm has shown that she has other sides of herself.
That's true.
I would say Palm.
Yeah, it seems like she's kind of the shoo-in.
The shoo-in, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I think Kill was I could be wrong, because they are from a family of assassins.
Oh, I'm not touching Kikyo. It was an easy answer for Palm.
No, I think Kikyo might be easier to kill than Palm. So when in Rome,
because if you wrong Palm, you have a permanent stalker who can find you and kill you.
She can scry you and stuff. I don't want to have to deal with that, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Kikyo would be quicker to forget.
I love how we're talking about a date when it's like which one is easier to escape and not die from.
Yeah.
I feel like though it'd be easier with Palm because you just have to deal with her. Like literally,
Okay, that's
Nav
true.
himself would probably protect me from Palm.
Yeah, that's
even
true.
though he's her master.
And the thing is that once Palm comes in to protect you, he will also be basically taunting Palm for you.
Yeah.
So then you won't really have to worry about it. Okay, yeah.
Graham
Palm.
Spector asks, "What is your favorite non-fantasy sci-fi story?" You go first, because I have no idea.
I love that distinction because, I mean, when I think about it, I'm not actually as much of a fan of like hardcore, like hard sci-fi, stories.
Right.
I usually really love the fantasy aspects because it does a lot for the overall story and plot and the aesthetic, the style.
But this is either fantasy, sci-fi, or in between. So what is your favorite non
Gotcha. One of those. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So like a real story.
Oh.
Like a non-fiction story. Or a fictional story that doesn't employ fantasy or sci-fi elements.
I mean, I'd probably have to say A Silent Voice, but if you were going for a book...
Well, I don't think they're going for a book. They just said story.
Voice. Yeah, Silent Voice. That's if you haven't seen that movie.
Yeah, A Silent Voice is really good. Like, it's really good. I would say A Silent Voice just to kind of be an easy answer here. But the thing is that, like, I have a couple other stories out there that are like, I don't know, they just kind of hit me when I read them or experienced them. And, they're fictional, of course. But they have this, I don't know, they have this other aspect to them where it's like they're so simple and they just hit the execution of that emotional thing like perfectly. And a lot of people remember them and are like, oh, yeah, that story. But it's like, no, that story, like, you'll never forget if you ever experience them. This one, to me, broke a rule in storytelling that, irreversibly traumatized me, and it's really good. It's called Where the Red Fern Grows. Final questions from TB. Is Shigaraki's opinion of Stain even wrong? I agree with him just because Stain had a way to justify his murdering. Didn't mean he wasn't also just destroying what he didn't like.
Very
cool
true.
Motive, still murdered though. I like the reference. Isn't his frustration on how he and Stain are perceived differently based purely on their stance on All Might valid? That last sentence didn't make sense. I get kind of the gist of what you're saying.
Yeah, I think there just needs to be a comment in there.
Shigaraki didn't realize basically the value of Stain's message. I think his opinion on him is essentially right.
Yeah.
But the gist of it is that Stain sees the value of what his message communicates outside of his killing. He's not, like, this is the thing where Stain's wrong. We're not saying that Stain, his murders are justified.
Yeah.
But the thing is that Stain is doing something wrong in order to achieve a result. His ends justify the means kind of guy.
Right.
So, in terms of being right or wrong, I don't even really find that question interesting. What I find more interesting is whether or not Shigaraki deduced correctly as to that Stain and him aren't that different. And I would say that Stain and him aren't really that different.
Yeah, the main difference is the passion behind Stain's, like, why he's doing what he's doing,
which is what Deku brought up.
Right, which is what Deku brought up. Exactly. And the fact that Stain's killing people, no, it doesn't make the killing people okay or anything like that. And even the people that are fans of Stain, I don't think they're saying that they're okay with Stain killing people. But it's the fact that basically Stain, because he's killing people, it's causing his message to be heard by people because there's attention put on him. So,
also, this is kind of funny, but
what?
Shigaraki still hasn't killed anyone.
Oh, Caleb, that lends so much more to the whole theory of Shigaraki being redeemed, because a lot of times in stories they'll make their characters not kill people so that they can still be, like, redeemed.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like,
just want to tell you guys, like, the reason why Shigaraki is in the story is because he's there to basically showcase what a growing villain should look like.
Right.
He was given the characterization and the character backstory, the character depth
Yep.
of a regular villain. But the thing is he's been implemented in the story as kind of a foil that's bad at being a foil. So if you looked at him with the kind of the simplistic eye, you'd say, hey, great Scooby-Doo villain. He's gonna, kind of just come back next episode and
But it could also be an essentially coming-of-age story.
Exactly, yes. this is the arc of a character who's going to be going through the full transformation from like villain who's like, you know, fallen, lost everything, has nothing to lose, all the way back around to someone who needs basically a helping hand. And it's going to be not necessarily just power of friendship, but I'm expecting a great implication of great execution of that trope with regards to Shigaraki in the end game. So because he's basically there to showcase what a hero should really be about.
Right.
And it's kind of Shigaraki's character arc to realize really what does it mean to be a hero? Like he's there to
he's
be
the final heart that needs saving.
Yeah, he is the final person who's going to clue in as to what does it mean to be a hero.
Yep.
Because as for him, he's kind of narrowed his viewpoint to understanding what that is. So we kind of went off on a tangent there.
Yeah.
Your question ultimately is kind of
I totally see what you mean.
Yeah, kind of on the right track. The idea of Shigaraki's opinion of Stain being generally right is I would say correct.
Yeah.
But
just because you're correct doesn't mean you're right.
Right. And also I would say if you could follow up your question with your final sentence there and just kind of break it down a little bit, be able to probably answer that final question you had.
Yeah, if we didn't like cover it enough for you.
If we didn't do that. Yeah, exactly. But hey guys, thank you so much for your questions. This has been our 49th podcast. And if you want to leave any future questions for us, where can they do that, Jacob?
Right in the comments
down below. Yes. Yeah. So do that, and it'll maybe get featured in the next podcast. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.